Glossy versus matte, the debate never ends in the monitor world. Both have pros and cons, so choosing one is more about personal preference. It's nice to have the choice, but 4K WOLED monitors have only been available with matte coatings until now. Today we're going to have a look at a monitor we've been looking forward to testing for a while, the ASUS ROG Strix XG32UCWMG. It's a 4K 32-inch WOLED with a dual mode feature that boosts the refresh rate with a lower resolution. That might sound familiar. We've already tested monitors like this before. What makes this one so special though? It's the first 4K WOLED monitor with a TrueBlack glossy coating, making it an alternative to matte counterparts with the same panel. Is this different coating really worth getting? And how does this monitor perform overall? This monitor has a premium look, even if there's nothing truly unique about it. There's some branding and RGB lighting on the back, and overall, it feels well made. It's mostly plastic, including the stand, but the base is metal. It holds the screen well and offers most ergonomic adjustments, except for the fact that you can't rotate it into portrait mode. It has a pretty standard range of ports, including a small USB hub and a KVM switch. However, the USB-C port is limited to 15 watts of power, so you still need a separate charger for your laptop. There's also the Neo proximity sensor underneath the bottom bezel. It turns the screen off when you step away from the monitor and turns it on again when you're back. Some people have talked about having issues with it, but we didn't have any problems during testing. This feature is part of the OLED Care settings to help reduce the risk of burn-in. There's also pixel cleaning that starts when you turn the monitor off, and screen move, which you could disable entirely if you prefer not using it. One of the most obvious things you'll notice when looking at the monitor is the glossy coating. Honestly speaking, it looks pretty nice, and images and text are a lot clearer than matte displays. Of course, you need to be in the 4K mode to get this sharp text clarity, as it looks a lot worse in the 1080p mode, which is expected. There's also some fringing around letters, but it's hard to see unless you're really looking for it or sit close. As for the coating, it absorbs light well for the most part. That said, because light reflects straight back like a mirror, reflections can be distracting if you have it opposite a sunny window. This coating is advertised as being TrueBlack glossy, and it lives up to its name. It really remains black in bright rooms, so you get those deep and inky blacks that OLEDs are known for in any environment. It maintains these low black levels better than on a matte WOLED. It's also a clear advantage over QD-OLEDs, whose black levels rise in bright rooms and look purple. You won't see that same effect here. How about the rest of the picture quality? It's an OLED, so no surprise that it's fantastic. It gets pretty bright in SDR as long as you don't use the uniform brightness setting. It fights some glare well, but again, it struggles in a sunny room. It gets much brighter in HDR as small highlights pop, but it's dimmer when there are larger highlights covering more of the screen. It gets the brightest when you use the adjustable HDR setting, but that boosts the PQ EOTF, so most content is brighter than intended. You can turn this setting off if you want more accurate EOTF tracking, though that results in a dimmer image, so there are trade-offs. We tested this monitor with the console HDR picture mode. It actually got brighter when we used the display HDR 400 TrueBlack mode with adjustable HDR on, which is unexpected. The TrueBlack 400 mode is meant to limit the brightness and prioritize accuracy, which it does, so it's odd that we got over 1000 nits with adjustable HDR on. That said, this mode performs as expected with adjustable HDR off, reaching around 400 nits across different scenes. We're not sure if this is a bug or not, but it definitely is something we wanted to share. The TrueBlack mode also has more accurate colors than the console mode in HDR. It covers most of the DCI-P3 and Rec 2020 color spaces, with only minor inaccuracies like whites, but it's not terrible either. The monitor also displays dark colors well, but bright colors just aren't as vivid as on a QD-OLED. As for colors in SDR, they're accurate before any sort of calibration, but far from perfect. There's a dedicated sRGB picture mode, but gamma tracking is off in it. Instead, we found that the image is more accurate with the user mode and display color space set to sRGB, which gives you access to settings that are locked out in the sRGB picture mode. It still has issues though, like with the white balance and gamma, but a full calibration fixes these problems. One thing to keep in mind is that WOLEDs like this have a shift in the gamma at low refresh rates, and this monitor is no exception. It has raised blacks at lower refresh rates, and we confirmed through testing that it's due to a rise in gamma that's causing this. We know this is a widespread issue, but if you want to see us do a more in-depth investigation and see which panels are affected the most, let us know in the comments. For gaming, this monitor shines. You can either use it with 4K at 240Hz signals or 1080p at 480Hz signals by using the frame rate boost feature. This gives it versatility for different types of games, whether you want detailed images in one or high frame rates in another. Plus, it supports all common VRR formats. As the monitor has HDMI 2.1 and DisplayPort 1.4 bandwidth, it needs to use display stream compression to reach 240Hz in 4K. There's a setting to turn off DSC if you prefer, but that limits the refresh rate. That said, it doesn't need to use DSC with 8-bit signals in the 480Hz mode over both DisplayPort and HDMI. As for the actual performance, there's little difference between the 1080p and 4K modes. The main advantage of the 1080p mode is the higher refresh rate that offers a smoother feel. At refresh rates of 240Hz and below, both modes are the same with a near instant response time for incredibly sharp motion. Of course, there's more persistence blur at lower refresh rates, and it has a black frame insertion feature to try to fix this. However, it only works at 120Hz in the 4K mode and 240Hz in the 1080p mode, and you can't use it at the same time as VRR and HDR, so it's not that useful. A downside when it comes to gaming is that it has distracting VRR Flicker. This happens when there's a big change in the frame rates, and it's noticeable in dark and bright scenes. There's an OLED anti-flicker setting that reduces the flicker, but all it's doing is limiting the minimum refresh rate that it's using, so it's not a real solution. On the plus side, this monitor has low input lag for a responsive feel while gaming at any refresh rate. This is the same in the 1080p mode, but the input lag is a bit higher than the 4K mode with 60 and 120Hz signals. Not a big difference, as you're probably going to stick in the 4K mode at low refresh rates anyways, like with console gaming. Plus, it supports most signals with modern gaming consoles like a PS5 or Xbox Series X. It supports 4K up to 120Hz, as long as you're in the 4K mode. So with all this out of the way, how does it compare to other monitors? On the surface, it's just like any other OLED with a dual mode feature. You get that sharp motion and deep blacks that OLEDs are known for, as well as versatility for playing different types of games. But it's the glossy coating that sets it apart, giving it a niche spot in the market without any direct competition. Instead, it's more of an alternative to models with other coatings or panel types. Compared to the ASUS XG32UCWMG, the main difference between them is their coatings. That monitor is another 32-inch WOLED with a native 4K resolution and 240Hz refresh rate that you can switch to 1080p 480Hz. The two are so similar that choosing one over the other really comes down to which screen coating you prefer. The glossy coating on the XG32UCWMG results in a clear image and maintains its low black levels better in bright rooms. That said, the XG32UCWMG might be the better choice if you want to place the monitor close to a bright lamp or window, because it's much better at absorbing light. The XG32UCWMG is also an alternative to getting a QD-OLED if you want to use it in a bright room. This is because it doesn't have the same purple tint in bright rooms as QD-OLEDs like the ASUS XG32UCWMG. This is definitely one of this monitor's selling points, so for anyone who doesn't like QD-OLEDs for that reason, but still wants a glossy monitor, this is the one for you. However, colors still aren't as vivid as on a QD-OLED, and this monitor lacks a few features the XG32UCWMG has, like Dolby Vision. As you can see, there's no perfect monitor or panel type, as they each have at least one downside you have to consider. The ASUS is no exception, but it's a fantastic OLED that's competitively priced. It's something to get if you want a glossy 4K WOLED as an alternative to other options currently in the market. That's all for our review of the ASUS XG32UCWMG. If you want more details, check out our written review. The link is in the description below. Until next time, I'm Nicholas from Ratings.com, where we help you find the best product for your needs. Ciao.